I wanted to sit down and just like, we have amazing conversation in here anyway. We're just like, when we're not making music. So I thought, why don't we just like whack a camera on and reason?
And I think that's why sometimes we as artists can get disillusioned or disconnected with our purpose and what we came into this for. You know, I was 15 supporting the game.
What?
15 supporting Lloyd Banks from G-Unit. 15, yeah. Remember what music has done to your heart and what it makes you feel like and how it connects you to other people. What you're echoing is something beyond what all of them awards and industry accolades ever represent. There's a connection to something that is more powerful than all of them things combined. There's more of us than there is of those who we may feel like we need to conform to be.
You're in the Steve's factory now.
Factory settings, man, simple proceedings, beautiful people who pass through the studio. We just switch cameras on. Mav, one of the most authentic we've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
Well, go on, bro.
All good, how are you?
Good, man. Nice to see you again. It's been a couple of weeks.
It has been a couple of weeks, yeah, but I'm glad to be in the podcast.
Yes, broski. I wanted to look at people's identity through music, and I think your journey is very unique and beautiful. And I obviously know a lot about it, but I'd love to delve in. Where were you born?
I was born in Stoke Newington in Hackney.
Right, and you have, as you can probably hear, thick Irish heritage. And so is your mother and father Irish?
So my mum's second generation. Her dad was from Kerry.
Okay.
All from family, all from East London, Bethnal Green, Leytonstone, Hackney. And my dad was born and raised in New Ross in Wexford. He moved over to London, met my mum, had me and my sister, and then we moved back to Ireland in '94.
Okay, so how old were you when you went back there?
I was 4.
Okay,
Yeah,
got
my
it,
sister
right.
was 5 years older than me. She was 9 at the time.
So you was in Ireland from 4 till what age?
17, 18.
Okay, so majority of you.
Yeah, all my childhood, really. Yeah.
And was that in Wexford?
Yeah, that was in Wexford. It was in New Ross.
New Ross. So for those who don't know Ireland, that's like south of Dublin, right?
South of Dublin, yeah, that's always the explanation. How far is it from Dublin? It's like, fucking hell, the epicentre. But yeah, it's at the southeast corner. So if you were to get a ferry in from Fishguard, you would get it into Rosslare Port. It's, you know, it's got beautiful beaches on the southeast coast, but yeah, it's the bottom corner of the country.
Yeah, they call it sunny southeast, don't they?
They call it the sunny southeast. As you can tell, I haven't seen much sun in a while. Hence why I've got a bucket hat on soon as the fucking sun comes out to stop me getting burnt. But yeah, we're famous for strawberries, cheese, the beaches of Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, is that when they did that?
D-Day beaches.
Okay.
And like, the great art and culture and sports and stuff like that. So
I'm lucky enough to have gone to Ireland a lot because my wife's Irish.
Yes, come on.
My sons have got Irish names, all that good stuff. So I get it, and I know how rich music is in your homeland, or whatever you want to put it. What's the first record you can ever remember hearing, or sounds?
It'd have to be my dad. My dad was, and still is, has been in bands growing up my whole life. So I kind of grew up with live music in the house, being in pubs, being in rehearsals with him. There was always live music in the house. I was always around it. So it would have been going to my dad's rehearsals, which I used to go from the age of about 3, 4. I was in there kind of like, he'd give me a little set of bongos or something and just let me bang around.
Just bang around while he was practicing.
Because I wanted to be a drummer when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
Just because I was always fascinated with the weight of drums. And my dad's friend, who's actually sadly passed away now, John Donahue, was the drummer, and he was a wild drummer. He was like something plucked out of the kind of hippie era in the 60s and 70s.
Right.
And I always used to sit by the drums. But yeah, it was kind of that. My dad was brought up on a mixture of stuff. He's a big blues fan.
Right.
So there was a lot of blues in the house. Robert Johnson and Woody Guthrie and more modern day blues. But yeah, my dad was a big blues fan. Bit of trad Irish music, bit of country, but kind of blues was the foundation of what I was hearing going on.
Right. It's when I first started going to Ireland, people used the word trad. I genuinely didn't know what they meant.
Okay, yeah.
It's mad because now it's like, of course.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But it's interesting we're here in Britain, we're so close to you, and so much of it is like unknown in a funny way, in terms of like the musical expression and the genres. When you was younger and your dad would take to rehearsals, would he do trad sessions and all?
Not really, nah. There wasn't really as much of trad sessions. I've been around trad session. I would have been within it and seeing it, but he wasn't. That wasn't his
Active,
kind of
yeah.
style. He would go and play, and he could play in a trad session. But I was more so going to his gigs, so it was just in pubs, and he was playing his set, and
But-
he would do like 50% original music, and,
Yeah.
and then kind of covers, and there might be a couple of trad songs in there, like
Got it.
Three Brothers or something.
Yeah. So imagine I'm an alien and I'm dropped in Wexford, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
And you walk into a trad session. Explain what a trad session is.
A trad session is a group of players from whatever traditional instruments, normally sat in the corner of a pub. It's never really like, everyone's silence and you listen to the music. It's like they garner that ear and that attentiveness. And it's playing traditional Irish songs, original or old. Many stories of pain, love, oppression, anti-colonialism, from modern times to before, and done through the kind of power of storytelling.
Yeah.
There's you're well versed with Ireland, but I always think that the beauty about Ireland is everyone's got a song, even if it's one old guy that's been sat in that chair in the corner of a pub for the last 40 years. He'll have a song that's his song, and there's that kind of tradition of word of mouth storytelling that I think trad music brings it to life with the music.
It's amazing. Like it's very like, what's the word? What's the opposite of like gate kept? What would you say that? Like, is it democracy? Is that the right word? Like basically anyone can turn up to the pub with an instrument.
If you can play, you can play.
And you get involved.
Yeah. And even if you're, a lot of these, singers the old fella in the corner of a pub or the woman who's been singing the same song for 20 years, they're not singers professionally, and they get given the space and time to sing it, and be listened to and taken in and applauded, And sometimes that person who's not a professional singer but has been singing something passionately for the last, couple of decades, they'll sing it with more passion than you'll ever hear from most professional singers, So there's a kind of ancientness in it that's, not just particular to Ireland, but we've got a particular kind of love and tradition of that.
Totally. That's what I've noticed when I've seen people in them sessions, or like family members now through my wife who just like pick someone up or sing, and it's like it's far from your auto-tune perfection, but that's not the point.
No.
But it comes with a spirit that's kind of like unlearnable.
Yeah. And I think it's the spirit. I think there's something, maybe lost touch with in music in general about how important the spirit is coming through. It's like it's my belief that none of this music comes from us as individuals, that we're just channeling stuff that is ancient within us and that comes through us, to get too bogged down with the ego of us being, of being the source of it. We're just echoing it from before. And I think that spirit that you hear in trad sessions, and you hear the purity of it, I think that's the beauty of trad sessions. That's the beauty of Irish music and the storytelling that we hear in them moments.
Yeah, it's amazing. You can literally walk past most pubs and there's a trad session at some point.
Yeah.
They'll either be on the board or you just go and do it.
Yeah, I went down to, I've been to Dingle a couple of times over the years. And as a kid, because my granddad was from Cologlan in Kerry, so we went down there every now and then as a kid. And I went to Dingle for the first time kind of as an adult. Only, what was it, 2 years ago, a year and a bit ago, for Other Voices. And, I had some of my band with me that had never been to Dingle before. And it was a proud representation of Irish storytelling, culture, and trad sessions. Walking into a pub, you don't even realise there's a group of musicians in the corner because it's a loud, bustling pub, and suddenly the movement starts. And you hear this beautiful, organic kind of like flow in the corner, and then suddenly people are dancing, and it was just like, it was a gorgeous representation of what Irishness is and the culture behind it. And I think, people who hadn't been to Dingle, or some of, my friends hadn't been to Ireland before in that sense, but I feel like they came away with taking a little ingredient of it into their hearts, and it was special.
Yeah, that's it. You can't not. It's so legit, that vibration that comes out of Irish music in my experience, particularly like something as low budget as a corner. I remember chatting to you in here about it, and you were like, said you'd been to Dingle, and you said, it made me want to get a bit more match fit on my guitar.
Oh, Yeah, I went back at Christmas and I played the guitar for my dad and he was like, don't call yourself a guitar player. Yeah, so it made me want to get my skills back up. I'm trying to get back to Ireland soon for a little period of time, just for the purpose of learning.
Sharpen up.
Yeah, learning songs, sitting in pubs and learning some songs. I think something's calling me to do that at the minute, just to sharpen up my guitar playing, sharpen up my songwriting, get back in touch with some trad elements of stuff that I've had sporadically through my career, but maybe not enough for me at this point that, I would like to delve into it a bit more and at least learn a bit more. So, yeah.
So your dad's playing guitar. Trad music is part of the DNA of Ireland. Yeah. So now, that's probably you move back when you're 4, so 8, you're say 8, 9, 10 times now, right?
Yeah, that's when I started. I probably picked up the guitar at about 8.
And that's because your dad played it. It was part of your existence. It was meant to be.
And there was a purity around it. Like, they weren't making money. Everyone in these sessions or coming back to the house after them and playing, they were doing it purely for love. There was none of that attached to it. My dad is still writing songs now and ringing me up on the phone and saying, hey, what do you think of this chorus?
So
there's a purity in that the spirit comes through, and that is the reason for music that inspired me the most, I think.
It's funny, isn't it? Because someone made a point. It was actually an Irish woman, Lisa Cany, big up Lisa, who was sitting here one time was talking about communication between sound, but way back, and how one day someone said, let's sell music. It wasn't created to sell. It's mad to think that now because I make it to sell.
Yeah.
This whole existence is kind of commercial. So it's mad to think that once upon a time that wasn't even on the radar of people.
No, because it's selling off the basis of how connected people are to it. Yeah. But the connection has to come first. Yeah. So it's the human connection comes first. And then I guess capitalizing on that attention and putting a monetary amount on it is okay, that comes after,
Yeah, but it's just mad to me because all I've ever known it as being is capital.
Yeah, and some people only experience it as that. And I think that's why sometimes we as artists can get disillusioned or disconnected with our purpose and what we came into this for, because we can come in very pure and then experience an industry around it that isn't always centered around reminding people of what this is about. And you can get so lost in making money from it, which we all need to put food on the table. Or you can get so lost in making money from it sometimes, and that being a prime focus of why you're making music, that it takes away the root of it a bit.
Yeah, totally. Same with me, but buying music. I bought music, I was just completely in love with it.
Yeah.
And then fast forward 15 years, I'm playing music I hate to make money.
Yeah.
I get it. Do you know what I mean? But then it's good to just go, oh, why did I start again?
Just to have the balance.
Balance.
Yeah, I think the balance is key. That's not to say that, sometimes in music we all kind of have that ebb and flow of doing things that maybe are stretching us or whatever like that, or experimenting or whatever. But I think just having that balance of feeding the pure intention has to be kind of kept alive. And shouldn't let the flame of that shouldn't be let go out.
100. So then you play guitar, you're learning, getting a bit older. I guess for a lot of young people, you start to at least think your identity is starting to form around 10, 11, 12 into your teens. Are you still in Wexford these times, yeah?
Still in Wexford, yeah. My dad had let me, he knew I was interested in music, and him and my mom had a vinyl collection upstairs in the attic. Don't actually know why they never brought it downstairs, but they weren't I don't know. Yeah, they kind of had a love for vinyl, but never really played it that much. So when my dad realized I was into music, he said, just go up and find some records. And that was probably the best thing he could have ever done. He never told me what to listen to. And so there were some rare records. He was like, do not touch them. Do not take them out of the fucking sleeve, yeah? He knew I'd break him, but... So yeah, I kind of had that early stage of finding music was through vinyl for me. There was modern stuff that I was listening to at that kind of 8, 9, 10 age, but really I was listening to a lot of stuff from the 60s and 70s. So I became there was a handful of records. There was an early Beatles record, early Beach Boys record, Ray Charles album, and a Fats Domino album. They were the ones that I kind of centered towards the most. And I used to have this old... the push along brooms that would suck things up. They're not. It's not electronic. It's like an old fucking.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like, I know exactly what you
know
mean.
the old
yeah.
vacuum
Yeah,
thing,
it's like
yeah?
analog vacuum.
Yeah, but they were a perfect mic stand. So I used to sing to all the tunes and learn them. And that was kind of my early introduction into a love for music. I'd sit up there and wait until there was no lights in the attic, so I'd just sit up and wait until it goes dark and play them records and like discover other little moments and stuff like that. But that was kind of the start. Yeah.
Brilliant. So then now you're writing music. No, you're mimicking.
Mimicking, yeah. Well, yeah, I'm learning, I
Yeah.
guess. And I started writing music probably from the age of 11. Kind of forced two of my friends at the time to join a band.
Oh, really?
I had to set up a little, old VHS camera at home and we'd record our sessions. But it was just me writing kind of early love songs and stuff and getting them to play. They couldn't really play. I could barely play. But, you know what I mean? They
Boy
were
band
banging
upstairs
around.
with Hoover.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And that was the kind of early stage of songwriting.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah.
And then at the time, so what year was this approximately? Like 90s, noughties? I don't really know.
So I was born in 1990, so this would have been, when I first started writing, would have been around, I first started playing like 98, 99, started writing when I was about 10, 11 songs.
So like early noughties.
Yeah.
So popular culture at that time is the birth of like mainstream rap.
Yeah.
It's like when it went from like
end of the 90s,
Yeah.
I guess, that was crossing over into Ireland and England.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
So
on a mainstream level.
Yeah, like I don't know, 50 Cent was out.
It was been just before 50, Ja Rule, end of the DMX era, all of that.
Dre 2001 and that was still kind of core, but something was about to happen where it meant that music was now not just like anything but mass. Like it wasn't remotely counterculture. Like I feel like rap music now is popular culture.
Yeah.
British rap is about popular culture. To me, that's mind blowing. But we can go there in a sec. So like there was this quote unquote pivot where rap, it didn't appeal to an audience. It appealed to everyone.
Yeah, I think that was kind of reflected on that time from older people around me in their cars. They would have had, I guess, on that era, maybe a couple of years after that, they would have had Fateless record, Prodigy, Eminem, 50, Tupac. That would have been the selection. It was that dance, hip-hop in Ireland. And it was like the handful. Unless you were like one of the hip-hop heads, then you knew about the depth of everything else, or you were more in tune with the depth. But that was the kind of like, I would say, the mainstream of that era introduction.
Yeah, that was that. But after that, it kind of became this like massive machine.
Definitely, yeah.
Before we go there, you mentioned Prodigy and Faithless. Ireland. Yeah, people don't realise this is love a rave.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realise it again until I went. I didn't know about Cany. I didn't know about the rave scene.
Massive. Dance music's always been massive in Ireland. My sister was, massive into house growing up. So I was kind of like always hearing from her room, like Tidy Boys, Lisa Lashes, all of that thumping. You know what I mean?
Beating.
Yeah. And there was always a massive culture of like going out and seeing live acts. We had a time. I guess it's probably a further conversation, but we had the show bands era in Ireland, like long before my time, my dad's era, where small areas in Ireland would have 1,500, 2,000 cat venues where show bands would come and be be stars in these places.
So what's a show band then?
So a show band was like Joe Dolan. You're not going to know Joe Dolan if you don't know the show band era or kind of Irish culture in that sense. Show bands were bands. My dad will kill me for getting these wrong. In
the FaceTime him.
In like the 50s, end of the 50s, early 60s maybe, probably leading up to the 70s. I could have got that wrong. It might not have been the 50s, but that period of time, that were doing a lot of covers from overseas that were popular music and some originals.
Got it.
Great bands, like, really well played bands, some great singers, and like they were massive pop stars in Ireland at the time. So they would have their kind of own circuit of venues. And from stories that I've been told about that time, it seems like small populations around the country were well served with venues that these acts were coming into.
Got it.
And from my sister's era, my sister was 5 years older than me, and people older than her, it felt like Ireland was also served with small rural venues that served then the dance community.
Oh, okay.
So that big dance acts were coming over and being able to do 1,500 cap, 2,000 cap venues in random places around Ireland, and there was a circuit. Now, obviously, a lot of them have closed down over time. We've still got an empty show band venue in my hometown.
Right,
It's
got it.
Maybe not 1,000 cap, but it's probably a couple of hundred cap, and that's been empty for donkey's years. So yeah, there was that dance kind of like. That dance obsession's been in Ireland for years.
Yeah, because I went to West Cork a couple of years ago. It was right funny. It was like a heat wave, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like Barbados or something.
Okay, yeah.
Like in Cork, it was like proper mental. Like everyone was like, this is the hottest it's ever been. West Cork is so beautiful. Anyway, we went to this pub and ate, and these coaches from Cork City were coming up, and all these young ones were coming off with mullets and that, like that modern Irish steez, yeah.
Big up
Raved
all the champions of the mullets.
Yeah, man, they love a mullet, you know. Big up the mullet brigade, man. So they're all getting off the train and going into this pub in West Cork, which is...
No, it's rural.
It's rural, man. It's country.
It's country.
Going into this boozer and raving to what can only be described as like gabba.
Yeah, and it's only about what, like 250 cap?
250 cap, you know.
Yeah.
Like going off.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is a proper thing. Like this is an existence that my wife had, your sister had, still going on. And it's right funny again, because unless you've seen it, you don't realise it's happening. Ironically, that same pizza session that we had was when I saw a flyer on the table for Kneecap and asked the geezer, Sam, who ran it, who they were. And he said, oh, they're right good, you should check them out.
Oh, wow.
And I went, wicked, let's see what going. And then, Ireland being Ireland, he lived with their tour manager, photographer, and then Nisha texted me off the back of sitting in that boozer, and that's how our relationship began.
Mad.
It's funny, isn't it?
There you go.
But yeah, so the rave scene per se. So that, all right, so listen, I'm just trying to go through the music and culture of your legs. 15, 16, you're writing tune, you're a young man, hip hop and rave is popular culture. You love the Beatles and you've been brought up on trad music.
Yeah.
What's going on right now? Who do you want to be? What's the...
I guess after that, there would have been maybe like 11, 12, 13. My sister's influence played a big role. She was listening to garage.
Oh, really? Music from the UK?
Yeah, she was, because she was a bit older.
Yeah.
She was a bit more connected with what was going on in London than I was when, you know, and kind of kept in tune with it a bit more. And so she would have introduced me to what she was listening to at the time, I guess, was like So Solid, Lauryn Hill's first album. Yeah, and kind of just a bit more in tune with what was going on with R&B and garage coming out of the UK. Tupac, Wu-Tang, she was kind of had influences from the States that I was taking in. And then, yeah, I would say around 13, I started to produce.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I bought a program called Magic's Music Maker.
I had hip-hop EJ.
Okay,
Similar
similar vibe.
Yeah.
And I think I remember being in a shed, a friend of mine's shed in Ireland, and what Tupac album was it?
If you like the vibrations coming out of this here Steve's Factory, there's plenty more. Just subscribe.
I can't remember what album it was at the time, but it was a Tupac album that he had on tape. And I remember going out into the shed and him playing it one day. And I must have been, this was like 12, 13, before I was in secondary school. So maybe maybe just 12. And I always found I found something about Tupac's storytelling that reminded me of the blues that my dad had brought me up on, and also had reminded me of trad music that I'd heard. And I felt very inspired and connected by it. And almost like it was like, I remember feeling in that moment a kind of a synergy between loads of music that I was inspired by. And then that opened me up to a whole new pathway of writing, you know, and MCing myself, but then having no one in a small town to like work with. So I started making my own beats at about 13. And then that led me then to get into the Irish hip-hop scene when I did my first gig when I was 15. Spitting.
Mad.
First gig when I was 15. I've been producing for 2 or 3 years. I started to delve into as much hip-hop as I could at the time. And then when I got into the Irish hip-hop scene, the people who took me in then you know, showed me a whole new world, both what was going on in the UK, like from Skinny Man, Clash, Task Force, right back to stuff I missed in early 90s US shit as well. So
Was that epicenter going on in Dublin? Did you have to travel to the city?
had to travel to Dublin, yeah. There
Yeah.
wasn't really anything. There was bits, I did some bits in Galway,
Yeah.
one or two bits in Cork maybe at the time, but yeah, Dublin was the epicenter. There was a group that took me in at the time, a manager of Urban Intelligence, For Real and Lunatic, who sadly passed away, the two MCs, but Dean Scurry was looking after them at the time, and he was a youth worker in a place called Ballymun in Dublin, and he was also a manager, and the Irish hip-hop scene was bubbling at the time, and he found me, or I messaged him on MySpace or something, back in the MySpace days when, it was good, pure times. But yeah, and he was like, "Oh, can you come up to the youth centre in Ballymun and work with some of the like young kids, like me being another young kid coming up?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm in school in fucking Wexford, like I can only come up on the weekends." And he's like, "Oh, funny enough, we've got a gig in Tremor in 2 weeks. Do you want to come on and do it?" And that was my first introduction. I met them, met a group called Correct Minds, who were a group of MCs from Tremor. Came into the house and they were playing Sagas of Kalashnikov.
Wow.
I'd already known a bit about Clash just from being from Hackney, and I think it was like the early days of Channel U and shit that I was taking in then. And then that kind of rebirthed a whole new start.
So then, all right, in Ireland, can you leave school at 16 when you was there?
I'm not sure what age you can leave, but I started school young because when we moved back, my mum and dad had the option of keep me back another year.
Yeah,
or
because
put
there's
me into
different.
school.
Yeah, like it's like a year out, isn't it?
Yeah, so they
like
put me into. I started primary school when I was 4.
the highest tour. So when did you leave school?
So I left school at 16.
Yeah, and then what happened then?
I'd been gigging from 15, so I was gigging at the weekends, not every weekend, but I was gigging a lot of weekends as a kid. And because the Irish hip-hop scene was small at the time, we ended up getting a lot of opportunities. So, you know, I was 15 supporting the game,
What?
15 supporting Lloyd Banks from G Unit, 15, yeah. And there was a selection of us, like, because at the time in Ireland, Irish hip hop wasn't really supported. There was no, I wouldn't say there was no real fans of it. The fans for me of Irish hip hop at the time were the producers, the MCs, and their group of friends, and the odd person who was in tune with it. I would say the mainstream audience in Ireland at the time were hip hop fans, but they were US hip hop fans. Even playing early Dizzy and Wiley and shit to people at that time. I remember people in my school being like, "I don't want to hear none of this shit." Like,
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear Ja Rule and 50 at the time.
Got it.
Fair enough, because it hadn't like.
Yeah, I get it.
They were nowhere near here ready for Irish accents. Yet, do you know what I mean?
Wexford,
let alone London.
Wexford drill wasn't ready.
You know what I mean? So, you know, they were just getting used to fucking American
it.
accents and whatever.
Fully.
So the scene was quite small. So much so that agents in the country did not want MCs to be supporting. So they would book a group of DJs and be like, "We only want DJs. We don't want any Irish R&B or hip-hop acts coming on to do support." There was a group of DJs called Rap Ireland at the time, which was Frankie Jez, DJ Moke, and who else? I can't remember else. But yeah, it was Frankie Jez, DJ Ahmed as well. So there was like 3 DJs that would get booked, Rap Ireland, and get booked for these gigs. And they're massive gigs. All the kind of hip-hop and R&B acts that came into the country, they were getting the gigs. They would also let us on and like bring us on for 5-10 minute slots. So they, you know, every gig they'd kind of have like representation of Irish hip hop in some form, and that's how we got supporting the game as a kid and all of them. So like, I'm doing these and finishing school and then going up and then doing these gigs and then going back to school on a Monday.
Brilliant.
Just still learning the craft. Like I was still kind of getting used to everything. So then when I finished school at 16. And I did okay in school, but I didn't do great. I wasn't really that academic. I liked history and English. Apart from that, I kind of zoned out. As soon as I got the love and passion for music, especially when I started gigging, the rest of the world kind of zoned out for me. So I finished school at 16, was kind of out into the world, but like, what do I do? In that period of time, I'd support Plan B. He was doing his first album, Who Needs Actions When You Got Words, tour. He did it in a venue called Whelan's. I was emceeing in the hallway with a group of lads and he came out And at the time, I was trying to sound like Dizzy Rascal, like I was having.
They have a London accent when you spat.
Yeah. I was having my own identity crisis. You know what I
Right,
mean? From like different things that had gone on. And
Yeah, of course.
different dynamics and shit. So I was still finding my way a bit, even though I was amongst the Irish hip hop scene and stuff like that. I was just still like kind of learning about myself. So he heard me MCing, and he was like, "Oh, you should enter this vocal competition. 679 Records were doing it at the time, and you know, enter it. It's over 2 of my instrumentals, and the person who wins gets a day in the studio with me." So I was like, "Sweet." Entered it, ended up winning it. Big up DJ Moke, because he ran me the night before and was like, "Yo, have you finished?" And I was like, "Nah." He's like, "Enter it now, don't fucking wait around."
Right, so he pushed you.
And so he pushed me, and I ended up winning it. Won a day in the studio in Leytonstone that summer. So I'd finished school, had this day in the studio with Plan B. I was like, went and stayed with my nan, who's still alive at the time, in Hackney. My dad came over.
You flew over, yeah?
Yeah. And I was like, "Man, I've got this day in the studio." My mom was dubious. My dad was a bit more, you know, silent supporter. I can understand with age why my mom was dubious about a music career. But so I was with my nan. Did the day in the studio, and I'm MCing for most of the day. And then at the end of it, I started singing. And Ben took me in. He was like, "Yo, what are you doing now? Like, where are you at in life?" And I was like, "I don't know." I was finished school. I didn't really, you know, it's that same old thing. You're in school and careers guidance counselors like, "What do you want to do?"
Yeah.
"I want to be a musician." They're like, "Oh, I don't
Yeah,
know about that."
but really,
Yeah, you know what I mean?
balance.
So they were like, "Oh, you can only be a sound engineer. Like, just be a sound engineer. There's no course for anything else." So I was like, "That don't really sit well with me." So I kind of finished school, didn't get great grades, didn't really know where I was going. And at the end of that day, Ben was like, "Yeah, what are you doing now? Where you know?" And I was like, "Oh, you know, I'm gonna go back to Ireland, maybe figure out something, like do a course to get into a course to get into a course, one of them things, and like have something." And he was like, "Mate, I'll be honest with you, that's a waste of your time." He's like, do you wanna do music at the weekend, like in the room at the back when no one's listening, like, and just as a hobby, or do you want to do this, like, is this your passion?" I was like, "No, this is my passion." And he was like, "Mate, get yourself over to London as soon as you can. I'll give you a place to stay in the studio to use for free." Wow. And I was like, "Fuck that, that's all I need."
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Proper mentorship.
Yeah, and straight down the line, like, no, he didn't mince his words. He was just straight down the line with it. So I went back that night, I had a conversation with my dad. I was like, "This is what I want to do." He was like, "Mom, I'm not gonna like this." So anyway, I went back to Ireland. My sister she was working in a restaurant at the time, got me a job working the floor, and I worked there for a couple of months. And then, I was turning 17 in the July of that year. So I worked up until the Christmas, and then I just packed my bags one day.
And came to London.
Yeah, I just decided, I was like, it's time.
And did you stay with Ben?
I didn't actually, so I kind of left. I left pretty quick. I just got the spur to leave. And my aunt rang me and was like, "I've got a spare room for you." And it's in West as well. So she was like, "I've got a spare room for you." One of my cousins had left home to go uni or something. And she said, "Look, just come and stay with some family for a bit. Like, you're new to London." I was like, "Sweet." So I packed my bag, stayed. That was in Greenford. Ben's studio was around the corner here.
Yeah.
It was actually across the road just up from the job centre.
No, I remember everyone telling me you had a studio there, yeah.
Yeah, that's why when you used to have the stage there, it was like, it brought it all 360.
Oh, really? Oh, deep.
Because I ended up signing on at that job centre as well.
Shut up.
So I was using the studio. So it was that whole road was always that was a mad moment.
So for context, there's around the corner, there's a job centre.
Yeah.
There's the place where he started his legacy in music, and there was the Toddler T sound that he performed at Carnival. Yeah. So we have a dynamic range of Maverick Sabre on that street.
And then we're back here doing a podcast.
Exactly.
Road, you know
a bit grayer. Oh, that's incredible. So everything was going on around there, really, to an extent.
Definitely, yeah. He was living up the road, and the studio was around the corner that he was sharing with someone at the time, and he used to give it to me in the evenings.
Beautiful. Just purely out of knowing how good you were and wanting you to do it.
Purely out of love, yeah. And then I made some music while I was there. I was gigging a lot. I found some people at the time, like friends. I was connected with a lot of his friends in East. Snuff and Logic from People's Army in South London were massively supporting me and kind of took me under their wing. Was doing a lot of gigs in South, like in Brixton Jam and stuff like that. So I was kind of around the UK hip-hop scene.
Okay.
Early doors. for me at that age. And then I had Plan B support, and that was kind of like the early nurturing of what I was trying to create, I guess.
And did you get signed off the back of all that kind of swell of... Because you got signed into a major straight, right?
Yeah, but not yet. No, it was... I ended up going back to Ireland for my 18th birthday, ended up not being able to then come back to England for a little while so I ended up kind of being in Ireland until just before I turned 19. And when I started working again in Ireland, and I kind of hit a bit of a wall because I'd been over in London, I'd had all these connections, I'd been working up, and then I was kind of like in Ireland and annoyed at whatever had happened. And then I was like, as soon as I've saved up enough money again, I'm coming back to London, I'm never coming back. Just before I turned 19, I moved back to London, and Ben put me up for a while. And then what happened after that? Then I was constantly gigging anyway. And then I think I had the Pro Green Jungle tune had been sent to me. The instrumental had been sent to me. I was still back and forth at the time. Jungle had been sent to me by Zubin, who was not even my lawyer at the time. He was a hip-hop promoter who ended up becoming my lawyer, who's one of my best friends, who ended up becoming my manager, who currently is, and the head of FAM. He sent me the instrumental, was like, yeah, there's, I think it's a Blueberry instrumental, True Tiger working on this thing, like, do you want to do a hook? So I did a hook on it in my bedroom in Ireland, sent it back. I was hearing loads of rumours, Busta Rhymes has got it, Devlin's got it, has got it. And then I heard Pro guy, I got sent the version of it. They said, they want to put it out. And that's what kind of kickstarted things, I think. In between that, I'd had one independent release, a song called Sometimes. Plan B had helped me shoot the video for that. I shot in Clissold Park. That was on Channel U at the time and building up momentum. And then Jungle came out. And then I think I got signed off the back of that.
That kind of catapulted you into the quote-unquote industry of London,
There was kind of that movement slightly happening independently. People finding out about me from Channel U. Jamal had done 2 SBTVs with me. I think he'd done 2. I Need, and they found him gone outside Camden Lock. That was before I was signed, I'm pretty sure. And then there was just like this build-up, and then Semtex and an A&R called Jamie Nelson signed me to Mercury Records at the time.
In that time, were you like one of the only Irish people in Spaces?
Here, yeah, I guess so. There would have been Snuff, DJ Snuff from South, he was Irish. Logic's got Irish heritage. Apart from that, unless there's someone drastic that I'm missing, yeah.
Because there's not a vast amount of Irish people, particularly from Ireland, that are really like ingrained in the music industry in London.
There is a lot more now, I would say.
Yeah.
But at the time, there wasn't any. Not from, unless I'm missing people.
Yeah.
Like you had obviously the era of Script and before Roisin Murphy, and like you had Irish representation in there, and there definitely was a couple of figures that I was around or bumped into at the time that were Irish here, but there wasn't a great amount, no, and definitely not in the spaces that I was in.
Yeah, because it's that thing, isn't it? Like traditionally, Irish people have had to, similar to the West Indies, fly abroad to work. And then the plan traditionally is then to go home to settle later in life.
Yeah.
So like my wife's a prime example. She came to England to do music, same as you,
Right.
Whatever. And then they have to they haven't got the access on their doorstep. And I see it quite bluntly a lot of the time with a lot of people who go back and forth and then they can't afford to go home and all these things.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a parallel to different cultures and cities. Like West Indies is a prime example, right? And I've always until I went there and seen people from different skill sets have to do that, I never really thought of Ireland having that migration as much as, because it's a necessity, isn't it? If there was a Plan B in Ireland and a label in Ireland, you probably wouldn't have to leave.
No, there would have been more options. I feel like, again, I think the scene is a lot healthier in Ireland now. Like, not just hip hop and R&B, but in general Irish music, it feels like there's a scene now of all genres and styles, and that there's a hub. I don't know, you know, at the moment how that's represented label-wise and support-wise, because there's still a mass exodus of people. You know, I think some of Ireland's greatest acts are probably living in London at the moment.
Yeah, this
you
is
know,
it.
with the exception of some obviously still great acts that are living back in Ireland. But there's a sadness to that, and there's a story that's not just specific to artists from Ireland.
No,
Generation after generation, you know, have had to leave Ireland because of, you know, the failure of our governments to have a place that people feel like there's a future in. You know, my dad had to leave. My granddad on my mum's side, you know, had to leave. So there's a kind of cyclical history there of that.
Totally, and it's even like it kind of goes beyond class as well, because like some people I know have gone to work in banks or big corporate things, and then they're having this. Do I go back or not?
Yeah. You know, there was times as a kid where I was like, you know, do I stay in Ireland and do I ride it out? Or, you know, at the time I felt like there's a ceiling in Ireland for what I was doing, and I was still figuring out myself, you know. So London was kind of like the obvious place because I had family here, but it felt like the obvious place for me to try at least something, you know, that I felt like I could push a bit more than the ceilings that we were facing now. And like we were saying, you know, there was still that stage where certain big promoters didn't want Irish acts on. You know, when you're facing stuff like that, it's like,
That's rough.
It's like, you know, you can see how the scene took a long while to be supported because our mainstream and the people who should have been supporting it were not supporting it in Ireland, you know.
So you're in London, artist, album, you went through that whole system, traditional. It's kind of, that era was more like traditional music industry to me. It was like signed, make, till, recoup or don't. Whereas now it's like, try it, no, try it, it was a whole different system, wasn't it?
It was a whole different system. I think I caught just the back end of that traditional system. So yeah, I got signed just before my 20th birthday, like a month beforehand. I'd probably had a quarter of the album written already with like a couple of the sketches of the rest of it. And then quickly went into making my first album. At that time, I'd had the Chase and Status tune that was out on their album No More Idols. I was doing kind of like dubstep raves, MC and singing at the time with a DJ for a period of time. I had like a song called Run to the Roof with Starkey. I had Inside with Footsie. And so I was kind of doing a bit of that and then like crafting my album at the same time. And the album came together fairly quick because we put it out in February 2012. So it was all kind of written within a year. It was that traditional thing of, you know, 6-week lead up, 6 week at radio, then you put the video out and then you leave that run for a couple of weeks and then
Impact week.
Yeah. And there was all of that, you know. So, and it was, because Mercury was a smaller subsidiary at the time, there was only, I think there was 6 acts in rotation with us. So there was like Chasing Status, U2, me, who else was it? There was a handful of acts in rotation at the time. So I kind of got the full blast of the last leg of that traditional label music to the audience.
Album artist.
Yeah. Big spends, like the traditional route. It was the era when you went on Chris Moyles in the morning and sang a tune, you'd go top 5 if people liked it. You know what I mean?
No, facts, yeah.
These things had these moments. You know what I mean? It was like radio had more weight, blogs had more weight, TV had more weight. You know, I remember big up Mr. Jam. I remember Mr. Jam bringing me on to Chris Moyles. It was like a Paddy's Day, Red Nose Day or something. There was some charity event going on that came into Paddy's Day, and I sung Fairy Tale in New York, and I sang one of my own ones. And we had an EP out at the time, and it went, you know, top 5 under Adele, and that was before we'd even dropped the album. So there was these moments that you can they were traditional routes. They weren't the easiest to get, but when you got them, they had big impact moments. And so it wasn't just kind of like the era that we're in now, that it's just like, it's kind of a free for all. Let's see what happens. There was a bit more structure to it, and I think there was a lot more weight to these things than when you did them. You know?
Definitely. So that album was super successful, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What was the album called?
Lonely Out of Brave.
Yeah. So that was like, for so many people, that's such an important moment in their life because it's like that kind of, I had this at this time. You was obviously touring. How many more albums did you do on that imprint after that?
So that came out in 2012. We toured that for a couple of years, and then it wasn't actually the same imprint because what happened in between was Mercury was molded into EMI, Universal.
Oh yeah, all tangled into one.
Yeah, so EMI went up, Universal bought the record side, and they merged it with Mercury. So now it was EMI Universal, whatever the title was. So the A&Rs that I had left, the head had changed, a couple of people in the team had changed. And in between that, my stuff went on with my first manager. I was kind of managing myself for a while, went to a management company, it was kind of all over the place. So a lot changed in the time. It wasn't Mercury Records anymore. And then we put out the second album, Inner Standing, at the back end of 2015, I think it was.
So there was the first two
First two albums, yeah.
that were in that system.
Yeah.
Traditional, old school, major.
Yeah, so coming into 2015, putting out the second album, that was when it was the bit of the Wild West. Like, if you think it was the Wild West now, people had, I feel anyway, that people had even less knowing and understanding what was going on. Because it was the early stages of, like, I guess, Instagram. Twitter was bubbling, and it had been bubbling, but it was kind of like, it was a bit of a new world.
Dreaming.
Yeah, I remember going in for a meeting, one of the last meetings, if not the last meeting, kind of I had with a team in there, being sat in there for an hour or so. Ideas weren't up to much that I was getting told of how we were promoting the record, and I was told this artist was in before you, and they weren't on their phone for most of the meeting. Like, as in, Mav, you should be focused on like promoting this stuff yourself on your phone. And so there was that kind of changeover about how we work in the world now of this new thing that's kind of the new promotional tool. It's slightly gaining less relevance of these moments on radio. You kind of had some of the champions of TV and radio not there anymore. And it was that stage where we were kind of losing them, I guess, like them kind of tastemakers in a way that had spearheads that had relevance that people listened to.
Yeah.
And they were the kind of gateway into audiences. And social media was becoming the new platform that some of us knew how to use, some of us didn't, and labels were kind of scrambling to figure out, I guess.
Yeah, it's changed so much now. Like I said earlier, it's like they bet on the horse that's winning as opposed to create the horse that wins.
Yeah,
and I get it. It's like if something's going off, they'll just take that. Whereas when you first began, it was like, this guy's amazing, let's amplify it. As opposed to let's take something that's already happening and amplify it further. But you re-recorded an album, right?
Yeah, we re-recorded the first album.
Why did you do that?
We re-recorded the first album because it came up to a 10-year anniversary of it. I've been independent since 2016. I think it was March or May 2016. Me and Universal went our separate ways, and I started I wasn't releasing in 2016. I didn't release independently until, I think, end of 2017 might have been the first independent release, but I was independent from kind of the start of 2016. It was the 10-year anniversary of the first album, so 2022. And we went and looked back into the finances in the back end of my Universal deal. And it was massively still in the red, even though the first album recouped. The so-called spend on the second album suddenly was still massively in the red, and it meant that what I wanted to do was kind of do a reissue of the first album, which, with how you are well aware of deals being set up, would have only really ended up benefiting Universal's pocket, and I didn't want to have been on the journey that I've been on and still championing that. So I went through some different ideas of how to re-record the album. And then I kind of got stuck on the idea of trying to remake it and do my best efforts to try and remake it so that I owned a version of the album myself that I could go, that's my version. I've spent a couple of years building myself up career-wise, financially, independently, that I can now do this. And I can have, you know, in my hands and go, this is self-released, this is self-owned. And also be able to have the conversation around why I was doing it. And yeah, hopefully like spark something in a kind of ongoing conversation.
And I thought it was brilliant. I'm a fan of ownership anyway. I think people who make art, if they can physically own it, I think it's great.
Yeah.
For various reasons. But I thought that moment was really inspiring because there was a lot going on. It was like something happened at the time where like the curtain kept getting pulled back on the reality of deals and how certain people eat over others. And that was a nice bit of verification for a lot of people that when you was in the game, there was one entrance, and if you wanted in, then that's just how it was.
Yeah, and like, you know, we went through some of the archive footage of me at that time, and there's an interview with me in Universal being interviewed by Amaro TV. Always used to ask very, you know, poignant questions, still does. And I can't remember exactly what he said to me, but he said something along the lines of, "Do you ever worry about recouping?" I think the first time I had just been out, or it was just about to be out, and I was pure bullheaded.
Yeah,
this is the art. I'm in, like, everything I'm dreaming about is coming true, and it's the art. No one can fuck with the message, and you know. And I answered and I said, like, "Oh, I don't worry about the numbers and the percentages and recouping. Let them deal with that. I'm making the music, and there's a beauty in that. That's still what I carry through to a certain point, but that was also what I was taken advantage of, you know, because I wasn't financially in tune. I wasn't educated in that side of the business. I didn't care about the business. I wasn't kind of nurtured to necessarily care about the business. And I think a lot of artists, maybe less so now, but a lot of us come in very pure because we've spent years focusing on the art, spent years trying to break through the art. And sometimes when these things happen, it's like, I had no money in my account yesterday. Now I've signed, I've got money in my account. That's good enough for me. Wow, all right, forget everything else. Oh, you recoup here, I didn't process them things. So going through the archives just highlighted the naivety, which was another good point to, like, you know, that's still present in a lot of us. And it's still aware from other people to take advantage of that. So yeah, it was an interesting time. You obviously had the Taylor Swift thing of her recording all of her albums, which, you know, I think was a big thing for a lot of mainstream audiences to see such a massive, colossal act needing to do that. It's like, oh, you know, we're all kind of like subject to people's opinions of like, oh, I saw you on TV, they must have paid you hundreds of grand for that. It's like, bro, that cost me.
Yeah.
I saw you performing on that cost me.
Yeah, of course.
Them music videos, they're all 50 grand that was on my, you know, bill at the end. It was all of these things that on the surface seem glamorous and sparkly, but really in the background they're adding onto a bill. The perception's very different. So yeah, it was kind of just interesting to tell the consumer and other audiences or other artists of just the story.
I thought it was brilliant. I thought, not because it was activism out of activism, it was activism out of almost like self-need or it's like some people by existence inspire, and it was one of those moments to me. So like you doing that is like, this was mad. I essentially got ripped off because that's the game. I'm going to re-record it. Some people could see that as radical. I just saw it as that you being you and wanting to own your own shit. But it inspired loads of us to go, yeah, man, I thought that anyway. So let's push that a bit further. So I think it's brilliant. Right, I'm going to fast forward a little piece.
Yeah.
2025.
Yeah.
I've been in rooms with you writing music for others. Shelley is probably when you were with your Hoover and microphone in the Wexford.
I do that every evening, man.
And work with a bag of
I'm
artists.
Tom Jones. I'm going to come out and like, Michael, this evening I am Tom Jones.
He brings a Hoover.
It's my crutch.
Oh, you should see.
Like my teddy bear.
You should see these young artists going, this guy, he's got a Hoover.
Yeah.
Hoover in my life.
Have a listen to this melody. Like,
and it's one of it oozes out of him. He reminds me of a Jamaican artist in that sense. I'm lucky enough to work with Jamaican artists a lot, and there's something that just pours out of them, and that reminds me of you. The affinity with Jamaica and Ireland we discuss a lot. You've been there a lot. You've worked with the greats. There's a synergy with the diaspora movement, the religion, the banter, the Guinness, you know, the repression, the colonization. So it makes sense to me why you're so loved over there. they love you, you know, bro. Maverick Sabre, bad, you know.
And the love's right back.
Yeah, and it's beautiful to see that synergy there. There's the songwriting you do, as I mentioned. You're also intertwined with Georgia Smith and how she's become this cultural and pop icon. You write with her a lot too, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were saying off mic before about going to a baseline rave the other day in the Midlands.
Yeah,
And she's from up
in
there.
Digbert, right?
Digbert, Birmingham.
Yeah. Big up
TD.
Big up all. Big up TD, K-Dot, Triller.
Yeah, all them, man.
Yeah.
So it's like you've come into the industry away from the industry. So you're not London. You're not. You've come into this place of cultural places, and I just like seeing you still as relevant in a completely different way.
Yeah.
Because there's not many of you, you know. There really isn't, and that isn't a dig. It's a upper class industry, and it's hard to survive in. It's hard to not be from London, from an educational space, to get the bringing. And there's less of us, I say us, than ever. You know, we look at lists of who wins awards and where they're from and all that. What would you tell the next Mav Sabre who's skint with his flipping Hoover in his attic, that's seeing all these people and the Brits from private education or from backgrounds that are similar to you? What would you say to them now?
I would say, remember what music has done to your heart and what it makes you feel like and how it connects you to other people. And never forget that what you're echoing is something beyond what all of them awards and industry accolades ever represent. That there's a connection to something that is more powerful than all of them things combined. And there's many artists still out here that represent that. And it's finding them kindred spirits to create, I guess, a strong alliance of the right message, the right feeling, the right emotion that counteracts all that. Because we can feed into that and feel like we need to become something that we're not. And I think sometimes the artists who do that conform and lose their essence, and then the ones who don't, sometimes they slip through the cracks and become lost or become misrepresented, underrepresented, can't be put in a genre, can't be put in a box, and they slip through categorization and don't get allowed in the door. And I think there's plenty of artists that are championing the right feeling and the right reason for doing music. Keep focused, because finding them kindred spirits and creating together connects with those kindred spirits in the audiences and the people that are tuned into the music. So there's more of us than there is of those who we may feel like we need to conform to be.
That is Ireland in a sentence. Maverick Sabre, my brother, give thanks, bro. Murder. Yeah, the Irish spirit came out of the end of that.
You're in the Steez factory now.